Kilohearts, and we're going to be covering Snap Heap, it's this guy right here, and Multipass. There will also be another video, it may have already happened, so if it has, you missed it, but maybe it hasn't, so I'm going to mention it real quick. There will be one for FacePlant as well. FacePlant came after Snap Heap and Multipass, and you can even open them inside of FacePlant and have them like nested in the effects area. So it gets FacePlant's truly incredible, totally insane. So there's the other videos just gonna be on FacePlant because it's a whole ordeal all on its own. So keep your eyes out for that one if it hasn't happened yet. So okay, diving in here, FacePlant and not FacePlant, Snap Heap and Multipass, they solve two main issues with mixing. The first one is when you run out of slots or inserts or whatever your DAW calls them. When you run out of these, you have to, send it to a new channel so that you can now use these slots and so on and so forth. With Snap Heap, this is no longer an issue. You just have a serial bus into another bus, into another bus. In each one of these buses, I could add things going down and just keep adding things. So you can give the buses sort of roles. It makes it a lot more meaningful. Like you can have this bus deals with like compression, or it does this stage of the sound design. So in this way, you can sort of encapsulate a preset with a synth preset and have them together and capture very complicated things very easily. Now, the VSTs that are opening here, each one of these is available as a VST. So if you want to open these individually in the chain over here, you can. But there's also snap-in versions. This is what they're called, snap-ins. And they are the only things that open inside of Multipass and Snap Heap. So these don't open VSTs, it only opens these. But what this means is the devs have total control over how efficient it is. So Snap Heap and Multipass are extraordinarily efficient, which is great because they've never caused me issues ever, even on the low-end laptops that I've worked on. So that's Snap Heap, a serial processing machine. With it, you also get some goodies that you often don't get at all with mixing plugins. There are a few out there that do it, but it is kind of a rare thing. The first one is you get macros, which is beautiful. We can control things individually with these macros, which we'll see. Then you also have modulators. This is extremely unusual to see. I can only think of one or two examples off the top of my head that have these, or companies that support this. So you've got like your MIDI, utilities, like remapping and scales and stuff so that you can stretch the outputs and inputs to the range that you would like. And you've also got some envelope stuff. So very cool. That's Snap Heap. The other main issue you might run into when mixing and just being creative is multiband processing. And this can just be a huge pain in some DAWs. So here you open it up, it splits the spectrum up, you put your things on the spectrum, and away you go. There's a pre-bus, a post-bus, and again, the modulators and macros. This is super duper powerful. It is so fast and so easy. Multipass has found its way into tons of projects that I've done just because it's so easy. Things that I wouldn't bother to multiband process before are now just, there it goes. So let me play for you this track a little bit just so that I'm not dangling this cool looking track without having played it at all. So we're going to play it just a little bit, probably up to here, just so you know what we're working with. And then we're going to get going into Multipass and Snap Heap and seeing some of the neat things that we're able to do and also just wrapping our heads around how they work. So let me close these out for now. This one was actually already on the track, so I'm going to leave it there. Here's what the track sounds like. All right, I'm going to stop it right there. So I let it go a little bit further, but I just wanted to get a vibe for the type of thing we're going to be working with. So maybe some of you guys are into this type of music. Some of you guys might not be. It's whatevers. So, okay, we're going to come over here. We're going to be looking at this kick for now, just as a good starting point. And I've already got a multipass on here. And this is something I really like to do with it. But let's bypass it and just add another multi-pass and do it ourselves real quick right here. So there are many presets. If you go into browse, there's a ton of great presets. So maybe we'll come over here to mixing tools and just see if we can't find one in here that's kind of cool. Like we got one called drum bus. Maybe that'll just get us going right off the bat. Let's also turn off this side chain. And if we look here, this is the setup they've already got going on. I'm going to go ahead and go to new, because what I like to do is I keep it a little bit simpler. You can do some real fancy stuff with, like you saw, there was a compressor on the input. So retaining the input, doing some stuff in the middle, and doing some stuff on the output. What I'd like to do is let's just take this here. Let's split it into 2 bands. Let's just get rid of this band up here. So now there's just a low band and a high band. On the low band, I like to leave this alone, and this is usually where the drop happens. This is a very clicky kick drum. So what I might do is come in here and grab a transient shaper. So you can just type it up and it will highlight, and you can use your arrow keys and hit enter, which is really nice. You don't have to click it. You can just search. It's a beautiful thing. So this transient shaper, by the way, is my favorite sounding transient shaper. I will use it over pretty much any other one that I've used in the past. So, okay, we're going to play this right here. Let's just pump the attack way up so you can hear what this is doing. If you're unfamiliar with transient shaping, it's just like a super fast compressor, essentially. It's made to get the very start of samples, the very start transients is what it's after. So spikes in audio, there's very fast moments. So it'll work really nicely on this kick. With a very aggressive attack, though, this will pump it up quite a bit. We bring up the pump, make it a little bit sharper, remove it. This is the kind of control we get. And then there's also sustain. Sustain's not gonna matter so much on this kind of a sound because there's not really a body to it. It's just a click sound, so it's whatever. Let's bring this kick up though. And the pump we'll leave alone too. The pump isn't gonna matter so much on this type of a sound. And usually you'd want to do this in context with your other drums. We'll bring these in. And we need to open up. We got the drum bus going out. And they're coming into the snare bus and the hat bus. Cool. So I like to put something like that on the low end. And then on the high end, I like to toss a little distortion up there. This is something that I would not do in serial because you just totally junk up the transient of the kick. Just typically these like small moving things down at the bottom end. So let's grab a distortion. There are many types of distortion. I'm just going to grab the standard distortion. And we're going to go ahead and move this over to overdrive can be nice. Let's go for saturate. And we'll bring the dynamics up a little bit, the drive up a little bit. And just hear this and find a spot for it. Now let's hear it before and after. And this is it. This is like pretty simple and straightforward preset to start. So if we take these off, we'll go back to soloing this. That's what we have now. So it comes up quite a bit. We might need to do a little bit of a level adjustment here. And we can use the post and pre for that if we should so desire. But there we go. Pretty straightforward example of what's possible. Very quick, very easy. I'm explaining everything, so it takes a little bit longer. But usually it's like a couple seconds, make a few decisions. Things I also like to sometimes do that can be interesting is say I want the kick to be split. I could add another band here, toss it like way up here. And there is a Haas effect. We could make our kick stereo, which is something you would not normally do. But when you're multi-band, you can leave the lows in the snap alone, go after this high end, and give it some width. And now that's quite a bit of delay. I might bring this back some. So without this, very center with it, it opens up. So this is an example of just something that you would not normally see in a mixing chain. It's all been very easy. You just open it up, search a few things, and you're done. So let's go ahead now and look at maybe some more creative things we can do. let's go over to the drum bus itself and solo this up. So let's toss a multi-pass on here. And on this one, or you know what, before we do a multi-pass thing, let's dive into a snap heap a little bit. Let's grab snap heap. Something we might try first is some parallel processing. So I'm going to make these parallel, and I am going to toss on here a compressor. And we're going to give it quite a, well, let's look at what our levels are coming in. Shave some of this off quite dramatically. Let's do it in parallel for now, just so we can see, we can hear exactly what we're doing. You can also solo up buses and things like that if you want. So yeah, let's hear this. And just as a reminder, we're hitting this bus, and then all these other buses just get the output of this signal. If we were to mute this, which it says mute here, but this really just bypasses this. You want to turn the gain down, and nothing comes through. If we bring this up, if we were to mute it, it just bypasses everything that's here. So if you want to solo up a bus like that, or have signal get stopped, you need to be looking at these gain controls down here. This gives you a nice way of just sort of turning off the effects. So, okay, we've got that pretty aggressive. Let's bring the ratio up even more. We'll bring the release down and the attack down. So this is going to be quite a grabby compressor. So now we've got this like really tight thing, and let's minimize it. And afterwards, let's do something kind of fun. Let's toss a verb on this. Bring the dampen up a little bit. Bring the size down some. Bring the mix down and the decay down. And let's also, this is where we're going to get kind of weird with it. Let's try out a distortion. So there are several distortions that are here. There's also there's a convolver now and a bunch of other like really neat things. But let's go ahead. Let's just grab here what did I say? A distortion. Let's just grab the regular old distortion here. An overdrive would be fine. Dynamics is a pretty cool control that changes how aggressive the distortion is based on dynamics. I think it's easier to understand if you just hear what it does. You turn this down. Let's bring the driveway up too, so we can hear it. Quite a bit more transparent here. Let's try out some of the others. So this is quite an overbearing effect at this point, right? But it's a sustained, crunched up thing. That's what we have here. We're going to bring this into parallel now. So now both these buses are in parallel, and then they hit the rest of the buses in serial. And we're going to turn this one like way down. In fact, let's turn it all the way down and mix it in to taste. And this is where we might touch that verb some and clean this up just a smidge. Maybe bring the size way down. And in context with everything else, if we were to bypass it, just a quick and dirty way to bring them forward. And here we can begin to do some other processing we might do just as regular serial processing. For example, we might turn off this bus compressor over here and just slap it on the output, because I view this sort of as an output thing. So I like to put it at the end. And let's go ahead. We'll grab a compressor and stick that on here and just look at the levels real quick, set our threshold. We're just going to grab some of those peaks and shave them down a little bit. And we'll have the attack be, we'll let it be a little more transparent. Anything, I don't know, below 20 milliseconds gets a pass. And let it just be kind of an open thing. And then we'll deal with levels after, should we feel the need to. From here, we could also do some more unusual things. Let's do one that I normally wouldn't do, but just to show you kind of like what the power of this is. Maybe we'd use it as a special effect somewhere. we could come into one of these buses, and in the modulators, there is one for the audio follower. So what this does is when the audio plays, you'll see it reflected as a level here. Maybe we want this to drive this gain control and to turn it up and down with what's going on right here as the level input. So I could take this and you click the little plus icon, and anything that glows orange is something that you're allowed to automate. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it here. I'm going to make it 100% linked. So this will move up from there. So I'm actually going to move it down a little bit. Maybe even more. And the reason I'm moving it down is because I'm not done. I've got plans for this. I'm going to actually remove what I just did, but you can see it moving when I press play. It's not moving very much though, and I'd like it to move more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and grab a scale control here, and we've got a multiplier. I'm going to sit here and bring the multiplier up to times 10, and I am going to attach our output here. So I'm going to put it here. So now it comes in and it's going to be scaled. Then I'm all done with that. So we're going to see it come in, and this will be 10 times greater. As you can see, very nice. And we're going to take this output and then use this to drive the gain. So now we have a much more meaningful gain movement. It'll be a lot more expressive. So the power of these scale modules and some of these other like upper and lower limit and remap controls make the outputs a lot more usable and just more creatively viable. You can hear that. Now that's pretty dang cool. Very transparent. Bring it up. Now here we might run into level issues. So this is where we might revisit our compressor over here. Try and get things a little under control. But I think this is a lot better than it being just parallel all by itself. Now it comes in, it's still in parallel. And this is something that, you know, what are the odds that you're going to come up with this exact chain this easily inside your regular DAW? Like coming up with a parallel bus, having some modulators drive something, and then having a compressor on the output. It would be a much more complicated process, but SnapHeap just streamlines it. We haven't even gotten into the macros, but this is a pretty common way, I think, to think about drum mixing, to have something in parallel, but to have such a viable chain like this is pretty dang cool. Let's hear it in context with everything going now. Maybe we pump it up just to see what that would be like. Now let's set up a macro effect. That'd be kind of a cool thing to do, I think. So we're going to come in here to the serial bus number 2. Let's grab on a filter, just a regular old filter. Now I should mention there are 2 types of filters here. There's also the non-linear filter. Let's grab the non-linear one. So you might be going, what's so great about this? So this is like your standard kind of what you'd expect type filters, you can see. Over here though, you've got all these different modes. It's like, think of it as a filter with attitude. That's basically what this one is. So I want to use a filter with attitude for this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have the macro just be a low pass thing. All it's going to do is it's just going to low pass the sound as we move it. So we have the option to do a filter movement should we desire in the middle of our wacky chain before it hits the compressor. We might even have a verb here or before, something that, you know, just to make use of the positioning of where the filter is in the chain. So I'm going to take this macro and I'm going to hook it up to the cutoff, and I'm going to make it positive so that when I usually link things in a positive direction, so that when this is high, that's high. And that makes sense to me because that's, we're going to hear the sound, and when we turn this down, we're not going to hear the sound anymore. We've got all these different modes. I recommend to just check them out. Let's do them, see which one you like the most. Let's try out, I don't know, fuzzy. Let's just see if fuzzy is going to work for us. Let's try out this macro. And here we're able to save this as a preset, and away we go. Pretty dang fast. So that's SnapHeap, that's multipass. Let's go over here and see if we can mess here with this vocal chop. So I've got this vocal chop here. Sounds like this. Already a whole bunch of jazz going on in here. Let's toss on a multipass here and just see kind of some of the stuff we can do. So I want to leave the mids and lows mostly alone. And I like how the bands are set up by default. So we're just going to leave that as is. This multipass is at the front of the chain. So we're going to have to remember it's hitting this other stuff. Let's just put it at the end. And so that what we're hearing is what's coming in to the multipass. So this high stuff right here, let's do something with that. So what I'm thinking is there's this effect called disperser that just does some really good phase goodness. And let's grab again that audio follower module. Let's see where our levels are sitting on the output of this thing. Again, pretty low. So we're going to bring that up with the scale module, bring this up to 10, push the plus icon and link it on over here. By hitting this little equals. And so now we've got a more meaningful output. And we're going to use this to drive where the disperser does its thing. So disperser is, from what I understand, a bunch of all pass filters next to each other, which do some weird stuff to the phase. This might be an interesting effect to have up here. I don't know. It's an experiment. That's part of the fun of producing, right? So let's just hear it. You can mess with the pinch here to sort of tighten it in. So this is another one where it could be cool if we also have the amount driven by the same output. This would be an interesting result. So that's the thing. You make connections in here that you would just never make because the modulation ability. It's in my opinion, it's like OP for production. It's like a cheat code almost. Dial it back a little. And let's toss a verb just on the high end. We'll just grab a reverb. And let's come down here. Let's leave it on default. Shoot, let's just see what that is. And you know what? On this low end, this one might be a little much. We'll see. Let's grab a Haas effect. Whoops, I misspelled Haas. It's got two A's because it's a name. Let's bring the delay down some. And if you're unfamiliar with Haas, it's just a delay from one speaker to the other. So the left will play slightly before the right, or the right will play slightly before the left. According to the channel, the big point is one plays before the other one. Just opens it up quite a bit. The kick and stuff can now sit in the middle a little bit more. And I think that's a pretty interesting, sort of a weird, bizarre effect. Let's hear it in action. Wow, that upper part is really clear now. If we remove this, I'm just going to use the bypass over here. Let's hear it without it. So what I'm thinking is, I think they're both cool. I think this might be a little much to be on all the time, but I like the effect, and I think it could cause things to sound pretty interesting, especially since I have this loop. It goes on for a while in the track. The listeners will be hearing it pretty often. So what I'm going to do is instead I'll automate the mix control on multipass. There's ways to do this in here too. You could use the master mix, but usually natively mixing it is just a little more straightforward because here you'd have to go through however your DAW deals with third-party stuff. So let's come in here. Let's have this off. And I think right there at the end, let's just have it ramp right up. Let's skip over here so we can hear it. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe bow it down, have it kind of more like this. Maybe just at the very end. And then right here, we could have it be a sort of a riff that comes up, a more of an expressive, momentary thing. Have it fit into the rhythm a little bit more. So with that said, let's take a look here. We've still got a few minutes. So let's dive over here into this bass sound real quick. So this bass sound is kind of like there's a lot going on already. It's a very complicated chain, and I pull out a lot of the stops. This thing was, I spent most of my time working on this sound. But what would be interesting to me, I just kind of want to see why we still have a few minutes, is if we split this into 3 bands. This is the whole point. This is how fast and easy it is. I have an idea. I can give it a try. I'd like to low pass filter each band individually. So I'm going to grab a filter here. We'll grab this one, stick it on there. And I believe you can also just shift click, or is it control click? Control click to copy them very quickly. And I'd like each one of these to move down. And you know what? Instead of using these, let's use the filters with attitude, the non-linear filters. And let's put each one of them on like a different filter mode because we're just going to be kind of interesting right here. So there's basically a filter on each one of these. This doesn't matter as much because the low will go last. So we could set this one lower. This one will go, somewhere up here. We're at like 2K. So this cutoff will only start to matter like right around here. And then this one can go as high as possible. We're going to move all of them down, but they're going to be 3 different filters. So this is a really weird thing to think about since this is like split band. So we're splitting our filters up too. We're going to take these. We're going to link them all to a macro that will turn them down from where they are at. And I'm going to give them all the same amount. We'll see if we have to change this later because some will turn off faster than others. And let's give each one a different mode. We'll give this one biased. We'll give this one clipped. And we'll leave this one on saturated. Nah, it's too normal. We'll go for metallic. Why not? We'll give them all sort of weird Q values because, we can. That's what we're going to do. And when we move this up, they should all move down. Yep, exactly as anticipated. Let's just hear on this bass sound. What the heck does this sound like? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to add one more filter that will act as a master grab because some of these are still getting through. So maybe we'll add a second row of filters like so. And we'll give them a very high slope so that just nothing gets through. This is going to be really weird now. So these are essentially color filters. These ones will be different. And we'll set these at similar gain or similar spots. So this one will be set. I need to see this. So our first one is at 432. So this can be at like 500 or something. This one needs to be just above 2K. There we go. The numbers appear when you move them. And then this one can go as high as possible. And we'll again link this macro to pull all of these down by the same amount. That way, any leaks that come through the first set will be caught by the second set. That's so freaking dope. Okay, so we're going to keep this for sure, for shizzle. And we're going to automate this. So now we can just use this one control. This was really interesting, the fact that we had to add a second bank for it to really be effective. So let's take these down. We can mess with the different types of filters that we pick there. Oh, there's so many options. This, by the way, is resizable. I keep working in this small window. So I'm going to really quick automate this. So the way you would do this is you'd go to Browse Parameters in FL Studio. This is different for every single DAW. And okay, there we go. We've got an automation clip here. Oh, there it is. It's at the bottom. Put it where it should be. So right here at the beginning, we could follow some of the musicality that's happening. Right there. This might be a little much just at the beginning of the track, but later in the track, this could definitely provide, some variation. This might be a little much. Let's hear it. That's so crazy. Let's bring it down, maybe not so much. So some very unusual options, a very cool chain. This one was surprisingly simple, but the results are crazy. You'll find that anytime you do things like this with like stacked filters, but especially across the spectrum, you just get results you don't get or you're not used to hearing because you don't usually have, it's not usually this easy to do stuff like this. But that is a little bit of multipass and a little bit of Snap Heap. Hopefully, this opened your eyes to some of the possibilities. Definitely check them out and have a blessed day.